Story 1. The Haunted Getaway. In the heart of the remote countryside, a charming old farmhouse stood, boasting a history rich in tales of love and tragedy. It had been painstakingly renovated into an Airbnb rental, and Sarah, an adventurous traveler, couldn't resist the allure of a secluded escape. Upon arrival, Sarah was struck by the farmhouse's rustic beauty, the aged beams, the creaking wooden floors, and the vintage decor. It seemed like the perfect retreat from the stresses of everyday life. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, a strange sensation settled over Sarah. A faint, mournful melody seemed to drift through the air, a haunting tune that echoed through the farmhouse. At first, she brushed it off as the wind playing tricks on her ears. As the night deepened, Sarah retired to the master bedroom, drawn to the antique four-poster bed. She drifted into a restless sleep, plagued by unsettling dreams of a bygone era. In the dead of night, she awoke to a chilling sight. A spectral figure, clad in a tattered wedding gown, stood at the foot of her bed. The ghostly bride stared at her with hollow eyes, her presence exuding an overwhelming sadness. Terrified, Sarah tried to flee the room, but an invisible force held her in place. The room grew icy, and the bride's wails filled the air. She began to approach Sarah, her fingers outstretched, as if reaching for something she could never grasp. In a surge of desperation, Sarah called out for help, and the figure vanished, leaving her trembling in the darkness. She spent the remainder of the night locked in the bathroom, praying for dawn. At daybreak, Sarah fled the farmhouse, leaving her belongings behind. She later learned that the Airbnb host had neglected to mention the property's haunted history. The farmhouse remained a chilling reminder of the ghosts that could lurk behind the charming facade of an Airbnb rental. Story 2. The Airbnb Cabin in the Woods. Nestled deep within a secluded forest, a charming log cabin was advertised as the perfect Airbnb getaway. Emily, a nature enthusiast, booked a weekend stay, eager to escape the noise of the city and reconnect with the wilderness. The cabin's picturesque surroundings seemed idyllic at first, with towering trees, a serene lake, and a sense of tranquility that enveloped the area. But as night fell, Emily felt a growing unease. She had been drawn to the cabin's promise of solitude, but the isolation was oppressive. The woods seemed to close in around her, and the silence was deafening. There were no sounds of nocturnal creatures, only an eerie stillness that sent shivers down her spine. As she settled into bed, strange noises echoed through the cabin, an ominous tapping on the windows and creaking footsteps that seemed to circle the bedroom. Emily, convinced it was just her imagination, tried to dismiss the unease and drifted into a fitful sleep. In the darkest hours of the night, she awoke to a gut-wrenching sight. A shadowy figure, draped in tattered clothing, stood at the foot of her bed. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity, and it whispered incomprehensible words that sent shivers down her spine. Frozen in terror, Emily watched as the figure drew closer, its outstretched hand inches from her face. In a surge of desperation, she reached for her phone and turned on the flashlight, illuminating the room. The figure let out a blood-curdling shriek and vanished into thin air. Emily rushed to gather her belongings and fled the cabin, leaving behind the solitude she had sought. As she reached the edge of the forest, she looked back one last time. In the cabin's window, she saw the shadowy figure once more, watching her with malevolent eyes. Emily later learned that the cabin had a dark history, and locals believed it to be a place where lost souls roamed the woods. The Airbnb listing had conveniently omitted this detail. The cabin remained a chilling reminder of the horrors that could be hidden within a seemingly peaceful retreat. Story 3. The Mysterious Airbnb Mansion. Natalie, an art historian with a taste for the eclectic, booked a weekend stay at an Airbnb listing that promised a unique experience. A historic mansion nestled in the heart of an old, enigmatic town. The listing described the mansion as a place where history and elegance converged. Upon arrival, Natalie was captivated by the mansion's grandeur, ornate chandeliers, antique furniture, and a sense of opulence that harkened back to a bygone era. It was a dream come true for someone with a passion for history. As night fell, the mansion took on a different character. The grandeur gave way to a suffocating darkness, and the echoing corridors seemed to stretch endlessly. Natalie couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. She retired to her lavish bedroom, a room that exuded a sense of regal charm. As she settled into the antique four-poster bed, a strange chill filled the room, despite the crackling fireplace. Natalie attributed it to the mansion's age and tried to dismiss her unease. In the dead of night, she awoke to the sound of footsteps echoing through the corridor outside her room. Cautiously, she ventured into a hallway, her footsteps muffled by the thick carpeting. The mansion was eerily quiet, and the moonlight cast long, sinister shadows. As she descended the grand staircase, she noticed a faint, ghostly light emanating from one of the rooms. The door stood ajar, and Natalie peered inside to find a scene that defied explanation, an elegant, 19th-century ballroom filled with spectral figures dancing to music that only they could hear. The ghostly guests wore exquisite gowns and tailored suits, their faces obscured by masks. They twirled and waltzed in graceful synchrony, their movements otherworldly. It was a macabre dance that seemed to exist outside the realm of the living. Natalie was frozen in place, unable to tear her eyes away from the haunting spectacle. The figures noticed her presence and turned to face her, their hollow eyes locking onto hers. In unison, they beckoned her to join them. Terrified, Natalie turned and fled from the mansion, leaving behind the grandeur and the enigmatic guests. She later learned that the mansion had a dark history of unexplained disappearances, and the Airbnb host had conveniently omitted this detail from the listing. The mansion remained a chilling reminder of the secrets that could be hidden within a seemingly elegant Airbnb rental.